Alrighty, and we are live. Fantastic. Very cool. All right, I've got the thumbnail up here. I've gotten a lot faster at making thumbnails. The last one I did, man, not that great. But this one, I like how this one looks. All right. So let's hop back over to the original file, which is a little less flashy as it's not actually the thumbnail here. And let's talk about this piece. So, well, first of all, hello. I'm Gabriel Quinn. It's very nice to see you again if you are a returning viewer, and it's very nice to meet you if you are a new viewer. I am an illustrator, designer, concept artist, bunch of stuff. I do a lot of world building projects, and I do a lot of live streaming, so I try to share all my knowledge online if I can, answer questions if you're in the chat, and respond to comments for those of you guys who comment and everything. And yeah, just hang out and do some work. I like hanging out online and talking to all you guys, so that's what we're doing today. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we're doing specifically here. So if you don't know what a draw this in your style is, a draw this in your style is something where you create a work of art and you put it out online and you essentially have a call to action, which is like, hey, people who know me or maybe don't know me, or people who like my work or who have never heard of my work, it could be all of those things. I've created this illustration and I'm inviting you to try it out in your own way with your own unique style. Let's see what you do if you draw from this. So the last draw this in your style that I did went really well. It had like over 100, I think. Yeah, it had quite a lot of feedback. Quite a lot of people did it. And I'm hoping that this one also does pretty well. But it's exciting because on Instagram, I hit my favorite number of followers. I hit 12K. 12 is like one of my favorite numbers, if not my favorite number. So we hit 12 and I figured, you know what? Might as well do another draw this in your style. It's been long enough. So on the last stream, we did a lot of reworking. So if we kind of go back here, this is where we're at right now currently. But if we go back, ooh, so bright, to some of the original design. Is this anything? What is this? No, it's a whole other thing that I was drawing. How far back can we go here? Is this a real thing? Yeah. So this is where we started. This was like kind of my first sketch. I just kind of sketched it out. I thought it was really interesting. I love like the motif of a sword. I love a dragon. I love a character. And this is kind of where the sketch went. So I started just with line. We can go back on some of the blood elements. Started just with line, and I was just sketching, and I really, really liked the direction it was going. I love the motion and all of the different, design elements. And for the materials, when I was painting it in, I was really imagining kind of a cool oxidized copper look, where the copper is kind of patinaed, but then some of that, original copper shining through, maybe been the patina scraped off in a couple areas. I love that material. It's one of my favorite materials. So doing this version, but I didn't really like the values. For whatever reason, the values just weren't looking good to me. So in the last stream, we made a lot of adjustments, and in that adjustment, we landed with this design. So we'll make this black and white. We'll kind of bring it over so that we know where we are here. Here we are. Yeah. So we went back and forth quite a bit, and we changed it so that the dress, like this kind of robe of this character, was kind of the main element here, and the dragon was kind of more of a secondary element, or I'll say like just a more clear value differential between the two. So our value blocking is a little bit more specific. And we also changed a lot of the kind of aesthetic things. So that's where we're at now. So a lot of the original posing, we kind of just shifted it, brought the head more vertical, more symmetrical. Yeah, I really like where it's at right now. Okay, my throat's a little dry. I'm gonna slurp for a second. Okay, let's see who's with us here. Oh, we got Ryan. What's up, Ryan? And Incredible says, let's go. Hey guys, great to see you. Okay, I'll pull this over to the side so I can keep track of the chat. Let's also make sure, yeah, nice. Okay, cool. We got some notifications going. All right, so going from this to this, we simplified a lot. We kind of changed a lot. Moving on from this, one thing I did is I pushed a lot in the line art. So I'll show you kind of where I got in the line art with this piece. Kind of go back on this a little bit. So yeah, so after doing this draft, I pretty much did the line art again from scratch. And here's where we're at with the line art. Originally, I was maybe imagining there was going to be like a bird here on the edge. I still don't know if I'm going to include it or not. So right now it's kind of just sort of a weird half drawing. You know, I might do something with it eventually. But I really liked how this line drawing went. The flow is really clean. Everything's really clean, which is kind of what I was going for with this piece. But now that I'm here, you know, going into color, it's really complex and pretty pushed. You know what I mean? Oh, we got M has to go. Oh, that's okay. Thanks for dropping by, dude. Sleep well. Catch up with the VOD tomorrow. Yeah. So with this one, I'll show you the sketch. So I just kind of turned this more into a sketch what we had before. I was sketching this bird over here, and then I went over top and I illustrated it properly, you know, with my proper technique. You know, and then I just kind of increased the depth a little bit more. So then going into the color, well, of course I started, where are we? Yeah. So I started with this kind of primary blue element here. Oh, we have some very dark darks here. Yeah, that's what we added later. So we started with this kind of primary blue element, and I was thinking of like really just using this as a base, drawing some of the character skin tones on top. Where we're at with it now is we're just doing a little bit of light kind of just materials rendering, nothing too crazy. And then some shine on the hair, so that's maybe what we'll do today. And then with the body of the serpent, I started with this kind of copper tone, which is cool. And then I kind of did some of the patina on top, and I've just kind of continually refined it and pushed it, you know, in this direction. And then with the mouth, it's kind of an inverse of what we did before in terms of going a lot lighter with it this time. So it's a whole lot lighter, as you can see. And again, when we squint, when we go kind of black and white, it has a nice value break from some of the other elements, which I think is a good thing. So I kind of like where it's at right now. And then I went in and added some dark darks, specifically around the face. And I'm liking that as a look. I think, you know, adding in sort of black as some of the, like a primary graphic element, I think it'll be good here. So I'll very sparingly be adding in some black elements as a framing device and all of that stuff for this entire piece. So right now, it's kind of feeling maybe a little plasticky to me, you know, and I think that's because, number one, we're doing kind of hard round, and the ink brush I use is quite toothy, but the way I'm coloring it, laying in the base colors, it's a lot of like polish, right? It's kind of just like a hard round look. And I think I want to add in a lot more texture so that we're getting a little bit of a nicer feel. Something else that I wanted to try with this is doing a lot more coloring of the lines. So making the lines a little bit of a different color, you know, and it kind of softens some of that that really intense sort of line look. And I love a very, very hard lined look. But for something like this, I'm actually wondering if we want to kind of reel it back a little bit, just a little bit, you know? So after all, this is kind of like an illustration, and we can kind of push and pull different things as we like. You know, one thing we can do as well is towards the end, around areas of importance or interest, we can add in much more significant, go back to our ideas guy liner here, much more significant areas and kind of re-back them with a bolder line. Certainly something that we can do as we get to the end. And having a nice thick holding line, it can do a lot to graphically tie a piece together and create some strong separations. So it's something we might try towards the end. Yeah, something like that. Even something like this against this blue, you know, we might kind of go for a deeper thing going over there and all that stuff. So those are some things that we're trying here. Ooh, Dobby says, yo, I thought I'd say hello. Got to go back to work, unfortunately. This piece is sick. Hey, thanks. Thank you so much. Thanks for dropping in. M says, did you leave low opacity for the green to have the copper showing, or did you draw the copper color back in? So I did a couple versions. So I started with just the copper tone, And then with this one, this version on top, yeah, I did paint it in with a slightly lower opacity just on top. So some of that copper would show through. But then in the current iteration, I did paint the copper back in. I think it's a really cool look. And I'm going to kind of continuously go back and forth on this and kind of continue to paint it back in and try new things and all that stuff. So yeah, this is going to be definitely, you know, in terms of draw this in your styles, the ones that do really well are the ones that are very doable. And the last one I did, for reference, by the way, the last one I did was very doable, I would say. Like, very simple. And I think that's why it did well. It was just a very simple one. Let's see if I can go back and find it. Yeah, it was this one. What a throwback, man. So cool. Weird. I don't know why it's showing up so low res on my screen over here, but can I get a better looking version of this? Here we go. Yeah, so my original one looked like this, essentially. It was this piece. I don't know if you guys have seen this one before, but I think it was really doable. The idea was really simple. It was very graphic, and it was very kind of shapy, and there was kind of this cosmic woman with this like very cosmic-y serpent thing. Very line art focused, very shape focused. And it's something I was just kind of trying out. With this one, I'm going a lot more graphic, a lot more classical. I kind of almost want it to feel like a little pre-Raphaelite even. In terms of the flow of shapes into other shapes. So that's something that I'm considering and trying, and, you know, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's definitely a bit more of an ambitious piece for certain. So messing around with the colors and the tones and the values, it's going to be a lot of fun, but it is also going to be, you know, a lot of work as well. So I think this one's going to take some time, but I want it to be like a fairly major illustration. Like I think I'm looking for more, I guess, more realistic, or I guess like painterly or refined pieces for even just like for portfolio for myself or things that I want to do. But yeah, coloring the lines, something I want to try. It's something kind of that I was messing around with just now almost. But yeah, that's where we're at. So I'm just going to be plugging along with this today, talking about my process, thinking about, you know, how I can make this better, and go from there. And yeah, I'm here happy to answer any questions you guys might have about the piece or about the process or anything. And yeah, definitely feel free to ask away in that regard. A lot of things I'm going to be trying out for sure. So I've been working in layers to kind of be somewhat efficient and have certain elements like above certain elements. So for instance, with the blue, you know, because I have it underneath kind of all the other elements on this stack, it's nice because I can kind of just sort of paint and sort of push things around, and it won't interfere with some of the other elements of the piece overall, which I think is pretty good. So originally I was thinking that the cloak would be a lot darker than some of the other elements, like a lot darker. But as I'm going with this, I'm wondering if I just want to lift it up. Just then I lifted it up just a little bit to see kind of how it would go. And I'm liking how it's looking now. But yeah, maybe I want to continue to lift some of those values up. And same with these hair highlights. When you're doing this kind of thing, you sort of set the rules in terms of the reflections and whatnot. I started to indicate some metallic reflections in the sword just to kind of explore, experiment, you know, see what that looks like. And I think it looks pretty good so far. But yeah, the primary focus of this piece is to have fun. It's been a minute since I've just done a piece purely just for fun. And with this one, with the subject matter and the style, this is definitely up my alley in terms of just having an absolute blast. So yeah, have you guys done a lot of draw this in your styles? I've made a few, but I've actually done almost none. I think I started a couple, but I just never ended up finishing or doing any other ones. I don't know why. It's just a weird thing. I just feel a certain way about it. It's just never really called to me as something I want to do. But I love making them. They're really fun to make. But I've never done any before. Yeah, I don't know if that's something that you guys like a lot, or maybe you're like me and you've never tried one before. Certainly you should try this one at the very least, right? Am I right? But yeah, I'm pretty much halfway, I mean, not halfway, sort of a little bit more into the second half of the world building with costume design class. Man, the last demo I did was really fun. It was just world building from scratch, just riffing, exploring, all that good stuff. It was such a ton of fun. I had an absolute blast with it. Definitely turning out to be one of my favorite classes I've done so far, for sure. It's been really, really great. I like the teal tones a lot in the oxidized copper look. And honestly, I'm wondering if it's something that I want to just maybe push like everything else back. Yeah, just push kind of everything else back. Just bring in that tone, kind of almost flatten it out a little bit. Some of these other areas, just flatten them out a little bit. Just a little bit of texture, you know, nothing too crazy. We can always bring back those tones in later. But I'm wondering if that's something that we need to do kind of graphically for this piece, you know? Yeah, I like the depth there. But yeah, maybe we reel it back just a little bit for now. Might be good. Yeah, like that. And then, of course, I'm always back and forth on whether or not I like this on a light background or like a dark background. I'm still figuring out what I want to do there. Really hard for me to choose, especially right now. So that's why I'm not choosing. I'm just kind of going back, trying different things, all that good stuff. Let's go back here. Oh, damn. A bunch of people hopped in. Cool. Muck Super has a sick emoji. Unfortunate. M says, I like that this one is a challenge. I can't wait for TCK to join in with a 50-hour epic illustration out of the blue. Dude, TCK, he did my last one. That was really fun. He did a really amazing job. Our Louis says, hello, I'm in love with this piece. May I ask, which advice do you give for someone who's starting world building? Man, well, you know, my answer is always going to be the same. You know, to start world building, the first thing I'll do is I'll say, just start. No matter what you do, you're going to have to refine and develop your own taste. Eventually, it's going to have to happen, regardless of if it's right now or whether it's later. So with that in mind, because you're going to have to do it anyway, what I would do is I would start to think about, what do you think is the coolest element of projects when you look at them? Do you think the story is the most important thing? Do you think the mechanics of how the science works? What are the things that jump out to you? And when you start to think of those things that you find important, start just kind of making a mental note of that and start to explore things in that same mode of importance, of things that already exist in the world. You know, if you like the architecture, look into architecture. If you like engineering, start learning a little bit more about engineering. And before you know it, all these ideas will start popping into your head while you're sketching. And then just following those ideas are a great way to start. So no matter what it is, just start doing it. I mean, there's no rules to world building. There's no method. There's no one way to do it. There's literally no set. There's no set journey there. What's up, Jay? How's it going? Veronica says, is there something that inspired the color choices? They look amazing. Well, the materials for sure. I love just the oxidized copper look. I think it's gorgeous. And then the royal blue for me is like super important. The royal blue is just something I always come back to. I think it's just one of the most beautiful colors ever. And because of its narrative association with royalty, it's just never not fun to paint with. It's never not fun to paint with this tone of blue. Halcyon Bloom says, I bought your brush pack. I love it. But which one did you use for the lines on this piece? I used the Ideas Guy brush for this one. I love that brush. One of my favorite brushes ever. The Ideas Guy. M says I'm going to sleep for real. Take care, dude. Oh, your name is Tim. Oh, cool. See you later, Tim. Seth says, what's up? What's up, Seth? Piece looking sick. Thanks, dude. Jay says, chillin', just working right now? Dude, that's fantastic. Me too. I was also just working, thought I'd do it live, I guess. I did the colors off stream, or the lines off stream. Sorry, guys, I didn't show you my secret line art process that makes my lines look good that you'll never know. Product says, cool, thank you for explaining. Dude, of course. M says, one last question. How are you not scared or tired to undertake an illustration like this? Also, you made a really defined line art, and how do you find the motivation to then do line art? Oh, I see what you mean. Well, I mean, this is true of any skill, but when you start, things are hard. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. So that's like a pretty great thing just to know. And we kind of know that with pretty great confidence. We don't have to like double check that information. It's kind of just we just know it to be true. Like the more you do something, the easier it gets typically, you know, overall. Or at least you have more experience to do it. So doing a pretty intense piece like this, or even, I don't even know if I would consider this that intense. The lines kind of took some time, but I've been drawing lines for like, you know, half of my entire life, literally, probably more than half of my entire life. So like, because I've just been doing it so much, it actually doesn't take as long as you'd think. The lines for this took, I don't know, maybe like a little over an hour, maybe 2 hours, something like that. So, because it was faster for me, because I've maybe have my process down a little bit quicker, it'll just take me less time and use less energy. But for someone with maybe a little bit less experience, it'll just be harder on the front end of it. And that's really hard. Like it's really hard when you're starting out with this kind of stuff. So be patient with yourself, and in that, you know it's going to take some time to learn. And also don't give yourselves any kind of illusions about how fast it's going to be when you're starting. Like, don't think that it's going to go by very quickly when you don't have a lot of experience. But then also on the other end, have the assurance and the confidence to know that it will become faster over time. Like you will get faster at it. That's like a huge thing that you should definitely make a mental note of. So here what I'm doing is I'm just marking in some highlights for the hair. And what I like to do is I like to just use the flat of the brush to kind of end the highlight. So I kind of just ease in and end right on the terminator of the curve, right as the form turns over where light turns to shadow. I'm just kind of stopping it right on that edge. And I think it's got a good look when you do that. So that's one way that I kind of do some sort of more shiny materials, I guess. M says, oh my gosh, it's so late. How did I butcher a message so bad? No, don't worry about it. But yeah, for the original line art, I kind of just did it freeform. Like I didn't think about whether or not I was making mistakes or whether or not I was doing it correctly. Like, and I'll go back and I'll show it for the sake of the question. Like for the original line art, like for me, this is really messy. I have a lot of messy lines crossing over each other. But they're specifically messy, I guess. And I'm just exploring certain ideas. But for this is pretty messy in my words. So I busted this out really, really quick in like, probably like 25 minutes or something. So then doing a more clean line pass, it took more time. But because I had the foundation already, it was great. It was like easy and pretty easy and intuitive to do. Ain't no way that's 25 minutes. Yeah, dude, of course it is. Like, didn't take that long at all. Especially because this kind of subject matter I'm really comfortable with. I've done a lot of like flowing robes. I've done a lot of serpents, done a lot of scales, done a lot of mouths with teeth coming out and curling tongues. Like I've drawn this kind of subject matter so much, it's just automatic. The scales don't take that much time. All you have to think about is like how the material's wrapping around. Dude, even this is like, there's a lot of incorrectness about how the scales wrap around the form. It's just straight lines with a little curve at the end, and then they just overlap. It's like, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Ooh, not that bad. But it would have taken me of like, 5 years ago, maybe longer. No, probably like 10 years ago, it would have taken me a lot longer to do this kind of thing. But that was 10 years ago. The amount of scales? No, dude, it's just the same thing over and over and over. That's the thing with kind of pattern stuff. It's just the same thing, but over and over. So it's like, it's as hard as it is once, and then, which is pretty easy. And then you just do that like, 60 times. Have no fear, my child, for you shall be delivered from the scales. Hell yeah. This is looking sweet. I like this a lot. All right. Nice. Nice. So yeah, this piece, I've been working on this piece a lot. I've been prepping for a couple things that are coming up that I have to do a lot of prep for, which is nice. I like being prepared. A lot of project stuff in the near future that I'm really excited about. One thing I'm really excited about is just continuing to be more selective. I've been saying no to a lot more stuff these days. That's felt really good. Being able to just kind of feel like empowered to do that, and also feeling empowered to say yes to the things that like I want to do to myself. Like that's also been really great. A lot of great feelings there, which is nice. Ooh, Ryan says, what's the story behind the cool golden eyeshadow? Are they cosmetic or a part of her face? You want me to spoil the mystery? Oh, so cruel to yourself and others. You want to demystify something so sick? It's already so cool, dude. You wanna ruin it by like knowing? Ridiculous. That's crazy, dude. That's crazy. Can't believe this guy. Very well. Keep your secrets. I might. So the shadow, wait, I just realized the shadow I had in the original being cast on the robe was for the old version where the mouth came in front of this. I think I have to change it now. I guess it goes up more, right? Yeah, it would go like up more. Along this edge, and this would probably be like more forward here since we've kind of moved some things around in the foreground. Now, what sneaky layer is this on? Oh, interesting. Okay, well, let's remove those. We'll go back to we'll do those sheens and shines later, probably. I hope those traffic sounds aren't coming through on the mic. That would be pretty funny if they were, though. It's so loud where I am, man. The traffic here is so loud. Yeah, I hope you guys are feeling good about your creative practice, as creative people. I hope you guys are, making the time for yourself to be exploring the ideas that you find important and, working towards reasonable goals that you can accomplish, whether it's just improving an art or whether it's actually like finishing something that you've wanted to finish for a while. I hope you guys are, making some good moves there, sending you guys good vibes in that direction. Yeah, recently I've had a big mentality shift with art. I've had a few in my life, and I've had another big one recently, which is kind of like remembering something that I used to know when I was younger. and kind of going back to that, which is that, everything is is to try to do good, And when you're doing art, you're also working towards doing something good for the world as well. You're trying to tell the truth, and you're trying to share a very powerful, oftentimes, or very unique truth that's unique to you, that you get to share. And that's not nothing, man. That's like a very, very important thing. So yeah, just hoping you guys are giving yourselves the opportunity to be heroic in your own lives, I guess. And yeah, pushing through those challenges that are in your way and finding ways to be of service in the small ways that we can be in life. Not to be preachy or anything. All right, yeah. So today's probably going to be just a lot of rendering, I'm going to be honest. Not too much exciting stuff. There's a lot of figuring out textures, I'm also kind of exploring my process here, so there's a lot of experimentation. So it's going to be a lot of like going back and doing the same thing a few times, trying new things, I've been really exploring process a lot recently in my own kind of work, figuring out what process is working best for me and what's like, feeling good. But yeah, just making that time to, slow down, especially when you acquire a lot of new skill. It's sometimes hard to know, like, well, what do I want my process to be? It's it's a tricky thing, I think. Okay. Sorry, just checking something. Okay, sweet. I'm really excited for my lecture tomorrow that I'm doing for the class. We're talking all about research and how to research like hyper effectively. So I'm really excited to do that. Something I think about a lot. Tim, my brother, not going to bed, eh? Resisting the urge to go to sleep, I see. Says feeling good about things lately. Trying to remember these things in my teaching gig. Dude, hell yeah. Teaching is so fun, man. It's the best. Tim says, I was trying to make something patterny, or whatever, myself the other day. I fumbled so bad. I suppose it was different from scales on your dragon serpent. I don't know if I got lost in the sauce. Yeah, a lot of pattern is like you're tracking space. Like your ability to do good patterns, a lot of it has to do with your ability to effectively like track space, especially across a form. Like if you have something like this where things are overlapping and folding over each other, you kind of in your mind you got to keep track of those curves, and you got to be able to do those kind of cross contour lines and calculations about, as things are kind of going over. So if you have, like a circle in your pattern, not only do you have to accurately draw it within like a certain perspective frame as it's coming towards you, or if it's flat, but if you do kind of like a circle-y thing that's a little foreshortened and it's curving over the edge, you're sort of tracking how the edge of that will be here. But then, as you go to the next one, of course, it's out of view, the kind of bottom section as it curves over, but you'll probably see like the edge of it here. And then as it kind of curves over, it'll be kind of back over on this edge here. So tracking space in this way is one of the big challenges of pattern. And the more complex the shapes are, sometimes the more challenging the patterns are. But usually you can reference those complex shapes with a lesser complex shape. Like if you have like a spirally kind of pattern thing, you can always just put it in a box and track it that way, and then as it kind of curves over the edge, you kind of say like, all right, well, the center of the box would be over there, and of course this would be here, and it goes down, then that box would kind of curve back over. So when I see it kind of curve back over, I can kind of map it out in a similar way. So you can kind of do that sort of thing and make it all make sense. But yeah, once you've done the pattern, a lot of the lighting kind of also does a lot of the heavy lifting too. When you're lighting a pattern, it kind of makes it. You can kind of sort of fudge the form a little bit when you're doing that. Okay. Yeah, for a piece like this, for me, man, I am always going back and forth between like a wide view, looking at the whole composition, and then like zooming in and taking a closer look at like what's going on. I'm thinking the cream background is actually throwing me off a little bit color-wise, so I'm just gonna go straight to white. We're just gonna go ahead and use white. Or do we just go with a mid-tone gray? Mid-tone gray is kind of good too for the sort of color thing, or maybe even a dark gray. Something neutral. Or do we just work on black? Yeah, let's try working on black for a bit. That's kind of fun. Yeah, let's try that. Heck yeah. Trying to draw a bunch of papers flying in the air, but it got too difficult and just gave up. Well, it sounds like you got to track perspective for that a little bit and kind of have a very well-developed sense of space. And having a very well-developed sense of space, you know, it means that your sense is well-developed. So if you haven't been practicing it a lot, it's going to be really hard. Things of high complexity are very hard at first, obviously. So thinking that you're going to be able to do it first try is pretty ambitious, I think. And this comes up a lot, you know, because people usually can draw things within their sphere of understanding pretty well. You know, like people get really comfortable with faces, so they can draw faces pretty well, you know, but then you kind of say like, hey, draw a bunch of papers flying in the air. And you've never really drawn, you know, anything that requires a pretty well-developed sense of space and depth and form, you know, and all of your face drawings hasn't really prepared you for it. So it's going to be pretty hard to adapt. What's up, Alexander? What's up, CJ? Welcome, guys. Yeah, it can be really hard doing like really tough and new subject matter for the first time. Definitely cut yourself a little bit of slack there, bud, for sure. I can link it if you're curious. Maybe another time. Maybe DM it to me on Instagram and I'll take a look. I'll take a look a little later, probably. I'm in the zone. Your boy's in the zone. So there's a few like complex things with this piece. Like with the oxidized copper, there's multiple things at work, right? Because when you look at like an oxidized copper statue, we'll pull something in. So you can kind of see. A lot of the time, it's sort of like you see a lot of that lighter blue sometimes towards like where the sun is a lot. This is a cool example. Of like Lady Liberty here. Let's pull her out of her vibe. There's also just a lighting thing too, like where the light is heading. But a lot of the really light blue kind of patina of the copper is sometimes kind of where it's getting bleached a little bit by the sun, you know? And some of the darker areas are oftentimes like facing away a little bit. Let's see if I can find another example of that. But honestly, not always. I mean, this is kind of cool. Oh no, never mind. That's a 3D model. This is so cool. Look at this one. Yeah, so you're going for this like mix of this kind of copper and then these weird sort of speckly kind of patterns on top. It's really cool. Ooh, this one's nice. Oh, this is interesting. So it's almost like retains its blue in the recesses and the kind of crevices, you know, as things kind of either get polished or gets wiped or something like that. Or even things like this. That's kind of cool. Huh. You know, I didn't consider that too much with this, how like in those crevices and recesses, you might see a bit more. What I'm kind of going for here is more kind of this sort of example where areas that are revealed have like a high level of reflectiveness and the rest is kind of more of this sort of patinaed look. So when we walk back in all of those areas of copper, we're going to kind of have some of those glinting highlights in there that are going to look really cool. I hope. I'm hoping, baby. I'm hoping. Here's to hoping. But yeah, not being too saturated, not being too desaturated. You know how it goes. Yeah, this underside of the belly is starting to look pretty close to what I want, I think. Getting those deeper tones in there. And here I'm using my pastel painter brush. I love this brush. Okay, cool. Yeah, so really, before I was kind of painting in a lot of the coppery textures in the crevices, but honestly, now that we know what we know, we can sort of invert it a little bit. The power of research, baby. Power of gaining new understanding. Oh, wait, I realized I can't see the chat. What are you guys saying? This is, oh, it's fine, no worries. Nah, dude, send it. Send it to me over Instagram, dude. Enjoy the stream, dude. Rest well, Tim. Incredible says, when I draw on black, the screen always glares so bad. Makes me feel like I'm cross-eyed or something. Interesting, the screen glares, eh? That's unfortunate. Probably with like your lighting setup and stuff. Oh gosh, Shamath Shroom says, hi y'all. Speaking of forms and perspective, just got commissioned to draw pets in a Warframe environment. It's going to be an interesting practice. Dude, good luck with that one. It's going to go great. Tim says, when the Draw This in Your Style comes out, I'm turning your serpent into a tapeworm. Oh God. That's horrible. Well, good luck. Good luck with that one. I hope you find success in your endeavors in that. Goodness. Sad face. That's really funny. Oh man. Yeah, so, this purple, this magenta purple in the mouth, I don't know how I feel about it. I'm going to be honest, guys. Going to be real honest here. Maybe we try something else for that area. Maybe we try something a little bit different. Just a little bit different, right? Maybe it's a little too saturated, or maybe it's a little too blue. Maybe we go a little warmer with it. Maybe go a little towards magenta. Maybe that helps. I feel like it's too much of a doesn't feel harmonious with the rest of the piece, if I'm being honest. Nah, but we liked that it was light though. That's like part of what we liked about it. We could try something really weird. We could try we could try having it be like just that kind of raw sort of copper. Maybe. Maybe. Yeah, you know, I don't hate it. And then we go white on a couple areas. Cling. You know, we could definitely try something like that. I mean, that's kind of feeling a little bit more where we want to be. And in some darker shadow areas, maybe, something like that. Continue experimenting a little bit with it. Well, that is something we could try, most certainly. Although I don't want the competing materials this much with like the gold and the blue and then this kind of other tone. Like, it does feel a little more in the kind of clashing range, I suppose. You know, we'll make it work. We'll find a way to make this work. I think it could look really cool. Ryan says I was just gonna say it would make more sense since it's on his inside. It doesn't oxidize, maybe. Yeah, exactly. You know, and it kind of sort of helps keep the materials a little bit more in alignment. You know, and the only thing is we got to figure out stuff maybe for the eye. Like maybe then what is the eye's color? You know, like maybe the eye's color is a little bit different, or the material's kind of a bit different. Like maybe it's kind of got a very strange sort of reflective quality to it. Many things we could try here, certainly. Yeah. I did like the kind of graphic look of just that white eye. It was very striking. Maybe we do still have that. As long as the values are on the money, then we're okay. Maybe we could even bring some of the blue in a little bit. Knock it back a little bit. Yeah, things we could try for certain. Yeah, many options here. Things we could do. We could even kind of mess with some of the, you know, reflections on the eye as well. We could have some cool material reflections of things that are around the edge, you know. Maybe we could have some of the blue of this cape. Work that in there. All things we could try. Which is kind of why we're here, right? We're just kind of trying it. So, you know, I've been not wanting to do this so far because I don't really like doing the whole like multiply layer thing. You know, it's kind of weird to me. But value wise, you know, in terms of the value separations, I'm feeling pretty good about it. Like, I like that the woman is a pretty consistent shade with her robe, and then the creature is its own kind of value range as well. I think it's kind of it's working here. I like how it looks for sure. Yeah, this is looking cool. So there's two kind of directions we could go with this. There's one direction where we, you know, keep our snake shape. We can just kind of box that in there. Where we sort of take some of these tones. Hello? Yeah. and we choose to push them in a specific direction. You know, we grab our blue, our kind of tone here, maybe a little less saturated, and we push some of these values up. And when we push these values up, it's sort of bringing everything else down. When you kind of raise the values of certain areas, kind of brings everything else down in a way. So we can sort of create some depth, like everything else kind of seems darker after you do something like that. Even around this kind of mouth area, we could sort of add some of these. Well, we can mask this really quick. Just grab a little selection there. Yeah, like right up against this nose. We can kind of sort of peel around the mouth, right? Kind of making sure we're keeping the curves pretty consistent. Around the edge, same with over here, right around this edge, you know? And that kind of automatically adds some depth to the scales. Instead of drawing in shadows, you know, we can lift those highlights a little bit, which I do like that look overall. I think it's pretty good look. But we don't want to go too light with it. The other option is to kind of take this same sort of selection and instead do a similar thing, but where we're painting in some more like kind of general darkness around certain areas, like around here, you know, because this is kind of like an edge going under another edge. You can add some darkness there. You know, because of those like kind of overlapping forms. Underneath here too. It's looking pretty good, right? Yeah, I'm liking it. Against this edge too. Grab this area. Oh, we're off by a little bit, which we don't want to be. Yeah. Same with down here. It'd be a lot more darkness down there. And then, you know, you can come back in and you can add some kind of more reflective rim light qualities. You know, you can take some of that multiply away on some of these edges that have, well, they're just that, they're edges. And then even around certain curves, you can sort of bring back some of those highlights and kind of reduce the size. And you can kind of bring in these sort of glinting lines around the metal. And like showing that sort of reflective quality, it adds a lot to the piece, especially if you're trying to have maybe more of a painterly look of something, you know? Definitely helps a lot, for sure. All right, we're going to stick with the white eye for now. I'm thinking the white eye is where we want to be. Maybe we'll try something else, but for now I think I just like the boldness of it, the simplicity of it. Yeah, I like it. So just with some kind of a couple effects layers, you know, we took our kind of textured base and we just kind of added a little bit of atmosphere, you know, a little bit of different kind of looks, different kind of effects. And I probably want to continue doing this a little bit more, you know. What's our thing we were using? This one? Yeah. Some more depth and darkness on the bottom. Same over here, even something like around this area. I feel like this would even be having a lot more of this sort of depth. And then doing a similar thing where we take some of that away with a little bit of that thin rim light. Just gives a lot of form, you know? And that's kind of how you show form with these kinds of rounded objects. You kind of got to really bring them out with these little lighting tricks. It's not going to be that clean in the finished, but, you know, we've just got some elements here that we're messing around with, which I like. Hitman Tutor says, wow, this looks great. It was nice meeting you at Lightbox this year. What's up, Hitman Tutor? It was nice meeting you too. Dude, it was so cool meeting everybody. Heck yeah. Yeah, it was so cool meeting everybody. Oh my gosh. Next year I might try and table again. We'll see. We'll see what happens, but I think I'm gonna try. It was really fun when I did it. But yeah, if I table again, it'll be really extra fun meeting all of you cool people. Even more so than I did this year. All right. Yep. I'm digging this, man. This is looking pretty sick. It's looking pretty darn sick, if you ask me. Let's check our values again. Yeah, our value range is still holding strong here, which I love. Now I think I want to get into a bit of the skin tones a little bit more. Dark Sun says, finally, I was able to get to a live stream on time. Dude, finally. I've been waiting for you, man. All this time, I've been waiting. And now we are united here on this stream. Welcome, dude. I hope you're doing well, man. Yeah, I'm even thinking of doing maybe some more convention stuff, you know, seeing how that goes. Could be fun. I mean, I had a really great time when I did it last time. Dark Sun says, thanks. But when will the next one be? I would like to know. Buddy, I got no idea, man. I used to kind of have more of a schedule about when I streamed, but there was like, it was interesting, you know, like after I moved, just everything in my life sort of fell into this really vaguely intense, chaotic whirlwind. And yeah, ever since I moved, my stream schedule has been pretty much non-existent. I haven't had a stream schedule. So I haven't had a proper schedule in a long time. What I would like to do is to be streaming at least twice a week. Like that's my goal. I used to really want to do it like almost every day in the past, but you know, these days I'm thinking more something towards twice a week. I'm going to try to stream again on Thursday. That's when I'm going to try. So keep your eyes out for Thursday. It might be a little earlier in the day though, maybe before like lunchtime EST, who knows? Hitman Tutor said, that would be so fun. Would tabling be selling prints and such, or just showcasing? Well, last time I was there, I was actually able to profit just from selling prints. So it was actually a profitable trip, which apparently is very rare amongst the first-time con goers. So I can flex a little bit and be like, you know, I didn't operate at a deficit. I did okay my first year. So it would be probably selling more prints. Ideally, And I mean, really, ideally, like, in the world of I hope, I wish, I dream, I want to have my art book done by then. But the odds of me finishing my art book are not looking good. They are not favorable odds. If you folks were betting, you probably would not make out very well in your bets. So yeah, something to consider, I suppose. But you never know. Maybe I'll get it done. It's just time. It's so much time to finish it, and then it's like that's time you're not doing anything else, And it's for me right now, a lot of it is how can I set myself up to be able to be thinking a bit more proactively. Right now, a lot of the projects that I take or don't take are kind of sort of revolving around like, can I afford to take this job? Can I afford to do this? You know, I don't know. Hard to say. Hard to say. But I would like to do an art book. That would be so fun. That's like my dream for next year. If I was able to do that, oh, dude, let's go. It would probably be something like in 3 parts that was more kind of project based. Like it would probably be my visual project, my Sky Pirate project, and then maybe like my sketchbook kind of stuff. That would probably be what the art book would be. What up, Ran? How's it going? Hitman Tutor says, art book, please. No. Well, we'll see. I don't know. Darkson says, I see. Oh, well, but I do have a question if you don't mind me saying. Well, not really a question, more of a topic to talk about. Yeah, dude, I answer every question people ask. Ren says, OMG, last stream, it was just line art. You're so fast. Yeah, well, Well, the line art changed. I mean, in that time, I did new line art. So the old version was this version, and then we kind of changed it a little bit to sketch, and now we have something actually clean. So if you look, the line art changed a lot actually. Pretty cool. You're doing it, Peter, I say to myself. Yeah, it's going really well though. I'm really liking how this piece is going. I'm digging it, baby. It's groovy as heck. Man, recently when I've been doing kind of metallic blades and stuff, I just can't help but doing like really fun, like semi pearlescent tones. Something I've just really been loving. And if I'm being honest here, probably going to be doing some pearlescent stuff as well in this version. Hmm. Hitman Tutor said even smaller art books seem to move well. That's true. I could do a smaller art book. That's true. But it's just the way I am. I'm a raised perfectionist. I was raised to be a perfectionist. It's just I'm very good at being a perfectionist, which means I'm not very good at getting things finished and out in the world. Which is why I live stream. I live stream because I would never be able to finish a video if I were to make a scripted video. I would just never be able to finish it. But live streams, I love live streams. They're so fun. But yeah, art book, hopefully someday soon. Yeah, I think I would mainly want a table if I had a book. Nice. Yeah. Sweet. Yeah, liking how this is looking. That looks really cool from a distance. I like that a lot. Ooh, maybe that's the same. That's what we do with the eye. We make the eye pearlescent. We solved it. We did it. We did it. Darksun says, so many topic I would like to say. Um, so my topic. So my topic I would like to say is how far can I or you change about a fantasy race with it still being that race? Take elves, modern interpretation, and how much can I change it and it still be an elf? Well, great question. How much can you change something before it loses its essence? You know, it's not like I can say like, oh, you need the you need like X, Y, or Z specific things or specific methods. I think it's the same rule with like how far you can push something before it's a dragon or it's not a dragon. You need enough tells still in order to discern that it is that particular kind of thing. So, for instance, what makes an elf an elf? Well, it depends on your base of reference. Considering that our idea of what elves are is mostly based on Tolkien fantasy, right? That's kind of what we're pulling from when we're talking about elves. We're mostly talking about that as a base and then things kind of inspired by that or things branching off from that. So if you kind of consider elves to be in that realm of general kind of fantasy based on a lot of like Tolkien writing and literature, then there are a few kind of tells that we can use to discern whether or not something is or isn't an elf. So one of those things is pointy ears is a great visual tell that something is an elf. And overall pointy features in general. Pointy features are a great tell, but pointy ears especially are like a huge indicator. So if a humanoid has pointy ears and pointy features, you can pretty much take a swing that it's going to be an elf, and you'd be right, I think, almost all the time, or at the very least, just most of the time, right? You just would be right. It's gonna be an elf or some kind of variation of an elf, right? Or based on an elf or branching from an elf. So that's one thing. There's another thing, which is let's say that you really want to go pretty far and you want them to not only not have pointy ears, but not even pointy features either. Like you want things to be very, very far from our original idea of what an elf is. It's a little bit harder once you kind of get to that point and still want people to believe that it is an elf, or at least kind of based off of the elf fantasy Tolkien thing. But you can look to other elements that elves kind of are known for. So some more subtle tells that aren't visual are kind of societal deciders. So number one is they're very, very focused on this kind of high ideal of what they think good is. A lot of the time, you know, reflecting back on nature, that like there's a great importance of nature. You know, cutting down trees is, you know, considered kind of very barbaric. We don't want to cut down trees. We don't want to be doing these kind of things. We want to be very, very noble with how we deal with nature. That's like a very elf-like quality. So that's one kind of element. Another element is maybe there's a general air of superiority. Elves, a lot of the time, think they're really great, and everyone else is kind of not so great, you know? Everyone else is sort of failing to meet their standards, let's just say. So that's another great thing that you can include. So if you have a modern adaptation of what an elf is, and they can't really have pointy ears and pointy features, you know, at the very least, you can have some of those cultural thematic elements in there. Like maybe they have lofty ideals, but in how they go about upholding those ideals, they are maybe a little bit self-centered, like around those different areas. That's another way that you could kind of take a look at it. But you need enough to tie it back to that original idea. There's also another thing to be said for what you say just kind of has power. So if you say like, oh, these are elves, even though they don't really act like elves, you know, people are kind of going to go, oh, okay, these are like the elves of this world, right? So they're not really going to be borrowing a lot from what they already know about elves. But then if you're doing that, like, why not just have a different word or a different thing, you know? So that's what I would say kind of to start is look for things that would kind of say elf just on its face visually. That's like a huge element, you know? But you kind of need enough stuff for the audience to build up a strong expectation of what an elf is. You need like enough there. If it's not visual, it has to be kind of societal, cultural. If it's not cultural, you need some kind of visual tell. And if it has nothing that ties it to what we consider to be an elf, then why are you even writing them to be elves? Why not, you know, have either a different thing or maybe you want to subvert expectations, in which case you're doing it and you're successful. Yippee. But yeah, you can push things pretty far though. You just need like a few key things that are, you know, linked very strongly to those other things. Victoria Leo says, hello everyone. I know this isn't a live stream about this, but I was looking at Gabriel's portfolio and saw the character Leaf, Queen of the Sword, and I really liked her. Does she have any kind of lore? Oh, dude, Leaf has tons of lore. She's so cool. Leaf was from a small village in a alternate Viking history, obviously. And for those of you who don't know, I'll pull up the art here of Leif. Leif, she's like one of my favorite characters I've ever designed ever. Let's grab my work here. God, you're looking at my portfolio? That thing's so out of date, man. My God, I think I have like one contemporary piece on there. This is the art in question here. Whoa. Hello. Leif, Queen of the Sword. So cool. Yeah, so she obviously is out for some vengeance because when she was a child, only a child, her house was burned, razed to the ground by a rival jarl. A rival jarl was not happy with her family. She doesn't really know why. Her whole family was just totally wiped out, taken out. Very unfortunate. But she escaped in the woods. But in her escape through the woods, she was intercepted by our second character, Blood. And Blood is, again, one of my favorite designs I've ever done. He's awesome. Here he is. Huh? So Blood is a follower of the goddess Hela, who is a Viking god of death, essentially, one of the children of Loki. She's really cool. There's no real recorded worship of her. It's kind of like, in our modern take, like asking for help from like something of misfortune. It's like you wouldn't really be, like I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's kind of like you wouldn't be asking for help from the goddess of death. It just doesn't really make sense. But this guy has committed himself to it, so he's got all these tally marks of all the people he's killed. And usually when he runs into an individual, it's probably because the goddess of the goddess of death, Hela, is speaking to him and telling him to kill this person. So he picks up Leif and he's like, "Well, I guess it's time to kill this child. It's my imperative to do murder. That's kind of what I do." But, the voice in his head is like, no, you can't do it. Don't do that. So naturally, instead, he has to protect her from her pursuers. And he takes out all these boys, just rips them up, cuts them up. It's an epic fight scene. Super cool. Dual axes. So sick. Practical? No. Cool? Yes. And then, they go on their adventure. And as they go on their adventure, he raises her, he teaches her to fight, but along the way, there's some kind of softening, like who knows how he will change by having her as his travel companion, and along that journey, she goes on this development of wanting revenge here. And this is kind of her state of being. Right. And then, as she matures, she challenges her enemy of massacre, the evil king, challenges him to a duel. Of course, she wins because she's the hero of the story and she's been training with this devotee of war and combat. And she matures into this very powerful woman who understands the balance of violence. She understands the balance of when to go to war and when peace is the better option. She kind of evolves out. A couple things happened when I was working on this, which is that I kind of started watching this show, the Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, and then this other show came out called Vinland Saga, and I watched both of those shows, and I went, oh, someone at the whim of fate who just kills people they meet. That sounds a lot like what's her name from that show, and a Viking kid who's, family was murdered who goes on a murder quest but then reaches enlightenment. Oh no, that's just Vinland Saga. So I think I fell prey to the pitfall of comparison, and I stopped working on the project because I was like, well, if I come out with it now, people are just going to say I copied Vinland Saga and I copied this other thing, so I'll just put it on the back burner for now, maybe rework it later. But that's the lore of those characters, so a little quick interlude on an old project I was working on. I was kind of maybe going to consider making it into a 3/4 isometric hack and slash game, where you play as Blood and then you switch between Blood and Leaf and you have to do all these missions and go through the forest and all that stuff. And it would have been kind of cool. But anyway, none of those made it onto the portfolio though. Just a few sketches. Where are we? Let's go back. But yeah, that's the lore, Tori. Glad you asked. Darksun says she does scream Nordic. Oh boy, does she ever. Incredible says, hate when that happens. Yeah, and it's like, it's not like you can't do it, right? You can do your own take of like classic stuff. I think the main problem was it was like my desire to explore those ideas. I just kind of saw those ideas explored, and to great effect. Vinland Saga was fantastic, and the Dirk Gently show was really fun, and I kind of got to see those ideas play out a little bit, and so I sort of left that where it was, if that makes sense, and kind of let them laid it to rest, as it were, I guess. But yeah, no, it's one of my OG favorite projects I worked on a while ago. All right, so the forms, we popped the forms a little bit when we kind of pushed the values ever so slightly. We add some depth, add some roundness. But it's not looking too good, eh? Not looking too good, I don't think. Yeah, no. I think we got to do things a little bit differently. I like the shadow value, but I'm not liking the light. I'm not liking the light value too much. I think it's kind of weird. Yeah, I think we just want to do the kind of more darkening effect first, and then we'll go back and we'll try some other stuff. Yeah. Plus for that project, I kind of, it's interesting how sometimes a few sketches is enough, and trying to push everything you do into like a large scale, big, 100-page thing It's just like, why are you doing that? There's no need for you to do that. It's not the kind of project where that's like something you want to do. It's like there's two key characters and some key events, and that's kind of it. Maybe I'll go back and I'll try some other story beats if I want to, but ultimately, I can kind of just leave it where I want when I want. Like there's nothing forcing me to do anything. Dark Sun says, I love the fact that you will for streams go like, let's make a mini little story and then proceed to draw it. Oh yeah, dude, that's like my whole thing. World building can happen in 20 minutes and it can happen over 20 years. It's like there's no one way to do world building stuff. It's not like there's any rules or anything. You think there are rules to this? That's hilarious, dude. That's hilarious. There's no rules to world building at all. Yeah, but that's like the whole fun. I'm very lucky that I get to do this. Very lucky. This is coming out so sick already. I'm loving this. This is really cool. Darkson says, mind if I share a little world I've been thinking about writing? Yeah, I mean, like you can definitely share it. I can't like look at the chat a ton or like read a whole lot, but like, yeah, dude, share your idea. Yeah, sharing your project is always fun. It's a good test too. It's like, can you explain something in just a few words? It's a good test to see if you can actually have a strong thesis. In the world building class right now that I'm teaching, that's the current assignment. You have to create a strong thesis for a world in like a very short amount of time. So you have to explore ideas and generate a very clear thesis like super rapidly, which I love. It's such a cool, fun assignment. Cool, cool, cool. So I'm working on a user guide for my brushes as like a little bit of extra kind of tutorial, a little bit extra information. And I'm wanting to add a couple more brushes into that brush pack, my classic designer brush pack. I want to keep it as minimal as possible because I think that when brush packs are overloaded with a ton of brushes, it's just like not very usable, I don't think. But at the same time, there are a bunch of like really cool kind of niche case brushes that are really fun. Like I added a very niche case brush with like the kind of stippling stitching brush. But I probably want to do a little bit more, a smidge more. It's not the beginning stage. It's not like I have a lot of stuff, but I love slasher stuff. And I'm like, what if someone made a whole story based on a slasher setting? Dark Sun? Oh, interesting. There was a cool project recently from Wizards of the Coast in one of their sets where they explored like, what if the entire world was a haunted house? It's called like Duskmorn. It's really interesting. There's I think a cool video on the design of Duskmorn 2 online. I wonder if Ristic Study did one? Yeah. Oh, this is cool. Yeah. Dude, check out this video if you're interested in kind of like horror settings and world building. Put it in the chat. Yeah, check this out. This whole channel, Ristic Studies, he's a really cool YouTuber and he's does things just basically entirely around Magic the Gathering. So some of the videos might not appeal because it's about specific kind of game mechanics or something like that. But there's a lot of really cool stuff about some of the world building things. So it's like he talks a lot about the different, angles of world building from, or he yeah, he looks at things from the world building angle rather than just a gameplay angle, and he like really pays attention to the setting. It's really cool. All right, let's kind of keep painting in some shadows here. Darkson says, "Oh, all right, but I won't get into it because it gets really messed up in the lore. But I'll simply say it involves the seven-headed dragon and it's inspired by Hellboy. Oh, that's sick. Heck yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not much for the gruesome these days. I'm pretty I'm pretty leaning more towards the themes of my stories try to like reach towards the divine and reach towards the the virtuous these days. But there's a time and place for darker genre work. I think it's just with the phase I'm in my life right now. It's like very much towards the virtuous side of things, I suppose. I've been trying to get better at rendering very velvety materials. It's really hard, but I like it. It's really fun. Yeah, focusing really hard on developing like rendering certain materials. It's something I used to scoff at a lot and kind of put down a little bit. Mostly out of insecurity. Like because I couldn't do it, like I couldn't render or paint certain materials. I was very, very judgmental of people who kind of put a lot of stock in that, you know? And finally kind of confronting that and sort of realizing like, I really do wish I could paint some of those more complex materials. It, put some things into perspective for me, and I was able to let go of a lot of that kind of internal narrative that was very negative. And I was able to actually just study a bunch and get into the things that I never let myself get into when I was actually studying and practicing. And now I love it. I love painting and designing materials. It's so cool and fun. I never get tired of it these days. Which 10 out of 10 would recommend practicing and developing and working on your materials. It's really fun. All right, so we've developed the hair quite a bit. We've developed some form stuff. We haven't really defined a lot of the form stuff, but that's a lot of like finishing work, right? It's a lot of finishing stuff, this kind of form stuff. Maybe we want to work a little bit more on the textures first. I don't want to jump the gun. I really want to take my time with this piece and make sure that I'm not rushing anything or, feeling weird about anything, and I'm just kind of doing it at the pace that I would like and the time that I would like. It's kind of where I'm at right now. Darkson says, also thought of a world just recently, but it takes the archetypal fantasy world with unicorns, fairies, etc., but it's a virus that infests the real world, slowly turning it into a wonderland. It's a fun take. Yeah, if you can figure out like the downside of like the reason it's bad is this, or like we got to avoid it because of this, like it's doing this, that's like not a good thing. That could be a really fun dilemma, taking those like, universally beloved tropes and kind of saying, but it's bad because of this reason. So yeah, if you can figure out what that is, sounds like fun. Incredible says, hey, can I ask how popular you need to be on YouTube to start making money? Obviously, I don't want to give personal info. Just curious what it would take to make YouTube worth the time. Well, unfortunately, if you think that way, it's just not going to work. If you're thinking about doing YouTube or making YouTube worth the time, you're probably not going to do well on YouTube, because if you want to do well on YouTube, you have to have a reason you're doing it besides just popularity and money. Like, trying to do YouTube is a very, very foolish career decision, just like it is to try to become an artist. Like, it's very, very foolish. Like, for all intents and purposes, logically, you should not do it, right? Because the likelihood of success is super limited. And it seems like, in order to make it in given mediums or in given fields, like you need a pretty robust skill set of that thing. So that's like another element you really got to take into consideration. And then you have to consider, on a more realistic end, like what's the end goal for you? Why are you doing YouTube? Are you doing YouTube because you want to teach people and like share your knowledge with them? Or are you doing YouTube because you like the idea of it, or you want to be successful, and so that's one avenue that you know of in which you can be successful, right? So you've like seen that art YouTubers exist and they do stuff, and that's kind of cool. Honestly, I don't even know if I would consider myself a YouTuber artist, really. It's like I put a lot of stuff out there, but it's not. I wouldn't define myself by that label, I don't think. And then going beyond that, I think that for me, the reason I started doing this is because I just had this burning impulse to share. Like, I had this burning impulse to share what I know with people. I learned art off of YouTube when I was like a kid in Bermuda. I grew up in Bermuda, and there was just nothing there. No art teachers, no anything. And, well, I say no art teachers, like no art schools or art institutions. And, I was like homeschooled for a while when I was out there, and so I wasn't really in contact with people. I was just drawing in my sketchbook all the time. When I got into a school, and I kind of went to school there for a year, I did have art. I had art 3 times every 2 weeks, so it was very, very limited, the amount of art time I was actually able to get while I was there at school. But when I was there, I remember one day, my teacher, who, bless his heart, love that guy. I owe him. I credit a lot to him, because he pulled up a YouTube video of somebody drawing a skull, and he was like, "All right, check this out. Just do this." And I was like, "Oh, what the heck? You can do that?" So next thing you know, I'm on YouTube every single day looking at Psycher videos, Cynics videos. This is back in the day when those guys were barely posting. Ahmed Elduri was making a ton of videos. By the time I got to high school, modern day James was making videos. And now James is like a homie. Now like I hang out with James. James is like my boy. But like during that time, you know, I was just watching their stuff and learning. And what I learned from that is that I learned a lot from YouTube. But as I matured and got a little bit older and I went to art school, I studied illustration in the UK. And, you know, as I started making my own way with this stuff, I realized that I couldn't learn everything I wanted to learn on YouTube. There's a lot of stuff that I had to figure out on my own, like how to think. You know, they don't really teach you how to think on YouTube. And there's also certain principles that people talk about, like, you know, they talk about shape design or color theory or, you know, like all these different things. And, you know, I think the way that those things are taught are so inefficient and so poorly done. So I had this burning urge to just start working on my projects live and just talking about them with people, you know? And I also came off of like 3 years of doing freelance where I was doing freelance world building and pre-production work, a lot of like blue sky stuff for studios, and like nothing that I worked on got greenlit. So that was like pretty rough. And like, it wasn't my project. So it's not like I felt the sting of like my project getting, you know, getting canceled, but it was all of the work that I did just meant nothing all of a sudden. Like all of it meant nothing. And it's like, yeah, I learned stuff, you know, that's kind of cool. But for me and my temperament, it's just not enough. Like I need the work that I do in this life to mean more than just that. So, you know, looking at my own projects, I kind of realized like, you know, I just want to do my own projects for a while. So I figured might as well start just making videos and talking about my stuff, because someone somewhere is going to get something out of it. Just like when I was a kid, I wanted to get something out of it, you know? And so I started sharing. And what's interesting about, you know, my perspective on a platform like YouTube is I'm not going to make videos that say, this art secret weapon will change everything. And I'm not going to make videos, you know, saying like, you know, these art pitfalls will destroy you, you know. I'm not making videos to try and get the highest amount of clicks, because if you want to make money on YouTube, you are aiming for the absolute highest amount of clicks, right? So when you go on art YouTube, you'll probably see a lot of videos that are kind of in that direction. And from my experience, all those kind of creators and all those folks, they kind of come and go. There's like a new one every few years or something. There's like a new guy who comes and starts like talking about all that same stuff all over again. And, you know, there's all these like videos of like how to draw a realistic eye. You know, there's like a million of those. And it's because they all get millions of views because, you know, when you're a beginner artist, you want to know how to draw a realistic eye. I know I'm tangenting pretty hard here. But the essence of what I'm saying is that it's not about audience for me. It's not about audience size at all. It's about impact and it's about quality. So my mentality when streaming on YouTube is that I'm here not to get attention or to show off. Like I'm here to answer your questions. Like if you go back and watch all of my streams, I'm just answering questions the entire time, because that's why I'm here, you know, because also I don't know necessarily what questions you guys have that I can answer in a video preemptively. You know, it's not like I'm making a video going like, you know, the 10 things you need to worry about when, you know, looking for an art job or all of that stuff. I don't know what you guys need help with. So I just go live and I ask you guys like, hey, what do you want to know about anything? And I answer all of those questions, which is why I'm answering this question so in depth. You know, I'm not going to say like, don't do art YouTube or, you know, don't be motivated by money or any of that stuff. Cause it's like, duh, obviously. And you ask a very practical question, which is like at what point does it get profitable, if it does get profitable? And for me, I was not expecting to make any money from YouTube. And so far, honestly, I haven't really made any money from YouTube. I mean, YouTube doesn't really pay anything for the kind of stuff that I do. Like what I do is I do highly niche streaming content. Like the people who are watching my stuff, it's a very small demographic of people. And with the business model of YouTube, it's pretty much impossible for me to actually make any kind of real money off of that specific demographic. Or I wouldn't say impossible, but it's very challenging. You know what I mean? I know that one guy, Monster Garden, popped off with a pretty popular video, the kind of redesigning dwarves thing. But I don't know if his other videos are doing the same numbers, and I don't know how he's doing. I don't know what that's going on or anything like that. But you got to be doing some pretty big numbers consistently if you want to be making anything close to a livable income off of the streaming stuff. So for me, what the model was for me, and I never intended it to be a model. Streaming was just something I did when I didn't have freelance work, because I was bored and I wanted to share and I wanted to just like offer what I know. But I was not expecting the demand, the constant and loud demand of, Gabriel, do you do classes? Like, do you teach at all? Because I guess like the way that I spoke or what I was talking about or the way that I communicated or my mindset around art seemed very helpful to people. And I got a lot of requests. And so for me, I decided, I was like, all right, well, let's try. People really want it, you know, and there's no projects coming my way that I am excited about or that I want to do. So I might as well try this instead. Who knows if it'll work? And so far, every single class I've done has like sold out. So I will basically say like, hey guys, I'm teaching this super niche thing. Like even this last one, the world building with costume design, I was not expecting anybody to take this one. It's like super niche. Who wants to learn world building specifically through the lens of like costume? Like it's a very, very specific thing. And again, it's just kind of a test of like, hey, like, but it's also one of my deep passions is costume design and also world building. It's like some of my deepest passions. So, you know, it would be super cool if I get to talk about that for a while. And but yeah, every single class that I've put out, you guys have said, yes, absolutely. So for me, it's not about the size of the audience on YouTube. It's about, am I actually helping people with what I'm saying? Is it useful? Because you can get on YouTube and create a lot of fear and talk about like industry do's and don'ts or 10 mistakes you don't want to make with your portfolio. It's just all this fear mongering BS, like everyone just trying to get a bunch of clicks because like, oh, well, I want to be an artist and I need to worry about my portfolio. So I'm going to click on this video because this random guy on the internet is saying these are all the biggest mistakes. You don't know if that person's reliable. You don't know how much they've worked. You don't know, you know, what they're doing. You just have no way of knowing, you know? You really have no way of knowing. So all these, you know, people who are burgeoning artists who are wanting to do great work in this world are just like inundated with all of this content made by people who want to extract as much attention as possible. And there are some really great high quality art channels out there. Like the ones that I would trust the most right now is definitely Cynic's Design is great. And you know, YouTube isn't his whole income. His whole income is what is it? It's teaching from, or a lot of it is teaching at, I think LCAD, pretty sure he's at LCAD still, or one of the LA schools I know, but Cynic's is teaching. Another great one is Proco. Proco has really high quality content with a bunch of very diverse artists. It can be a little bit on the side of like, you know, focusing on very popular artists. Like that can be something that happens a lot on Proco. Like they have people who have a high degree of like technical finesse specifically just with drawing. They'll have a lot of those people on, and it's great to hear those people talk about stuff. But it's like, anyway, I'm going a little too far into it. But what I would say is like, if you're thinking about it in terms of money, you're just totally in the wrong. And even like thinking in terms of like, you know, how, you know, what will it take in order for art to be worth it? You know, what will it be? What will make it, worth the time, worth anything? It's not going to be worth the time. I'll tell you right now, man, you know, there's like hundreds of hours of me talking on YouTube and I get paid nothing for that. But what I do get is hopefully some trust, and hopefully I have enough wisdom and enough to offer that people give me their trust. And when I kind of put out something that like I want to do that I'm excited about, like if I'm doing another class or if I'm doing whatever kind of thing, and I say like, hey, you guys can participate in this class, you know, like a lot of people sign up. So for me, that's what's paying my bills right now. What's paying my bills right now is a lot of the teaching stuff. And I'm really, really lucky that I get to teach things that are really niche and things that you won't hear about in other places on YouTube. Like, you're not going to be getting world building with costume design maybe anywhere, but you will get it with me, and you're going to get it at a price that is so unbelievably affordable compared to competitors and all that stuff. And that's also my main goal. My main goal is for the classes that I do is I want them to be affordable for people in areas where the currency conversion is like nuts. A lot of people have a really hard time. And I see where, in the data analytics on Gumroad, like I see where people are buying from. And I'm really, really happy with the performance of the last one, that a lot of people in countries with really harsh currency conversion are able to take the class, which is like huge for me. It's like the most important thing, that it's affordable for people who can't do other stuff. It's another reason why I do stuff just independently on my own, is because if you go through a school, then they're going to want to take a cut, which is going to increase the cost of the class. So I'm able to offer classes at a more competitive rate because I'm not going through a school. If I was going through something like Brainstorm or another school, which like I've considered, obviously, like I've considered that, I'm not going to go through those schools because like I've developed a really great infrastructure to do things all on my own. I've got a really great process now, and it lowers the cost for students, which is great. It's not like I'm charging the same prices and, doing all the things myself. It's like, because I'm doing it myself, I can offer lower prices for countries that can't afford traditional means. But a bit of an over answer to your question. But if you do want to make it on YouTube, just in general, regardless of art, you got to have a lot of eyeballs, man, a lot of eyeballs. And for me, with what I want to do, like the stuff that I post and the titles and everything that I do, like it's so far from clickbait. I could try some clickbait stuff for fun. That might be fun or something. And like do a little bait and switch, like, maybe do like a what brush do you use video and kind of, have it be like pseudo satire or something, like who knows. But yeah, that's what I'll say, is if you want to do YouTube and you want to make a lot of money from YouTube, you got to be thinking like how a network thinks, which is how do I get the highest number of eyeballs on my videos as possible, which means they have to be highly entertaining. They have to be very topical. They have to be very specifically topical. Like you'll notice a lot of art YouTubers talking about very contemporary things, like, oh, there was like AI at an art convention, or so-and-so stole work here, or there's plagiarism, or, like very flashy topics that are going to get a lot of people looking. Like that's the kind of stuff you want to be doing if you want to be making the highest amount of capital, right? Anyway, that's what I would say to that question. Now, like, I don't know like your direct intention when you ask that question, but that's what I would say to the question. Seth says, dude, the old Psychra videos. Dude, those old Psychra videos, they're so good and they're so bad. Like they're not bad, but it's like, oh man, I had to unlearn so many habits I developed from Psychra. Not because it was his fault. It's just because maybe misinterpretation or whatever it was. But dude, I love Psychra. That guy rules. Yeah, let's look at the chat. Seth says, art YouTube on my phone in bed at 1 a.m. Dude, so true. Incredible says, that's valid. My heart is in art, but I can only pursue so many things with it at once. I think YouTube would be cool someday in the future if I could make it worth. It'd be a side hobby / gig. Incredible says, it's like my art is an engine that's always going to be running and inspiring me. The question is, what vehicle do I put that engine in, if that makes sense? Dude, that's a great way of thinking about it. Like you're always doing it, but how are you going to translate that into some kind of vocation? That's a super hard thing to figure out, man. Like figuring out what your career is going to look like is just really hard. And it's hard because it's hard. It's like not hard for any particular reason. It just is super hard. There we go. Yeah, it just is super hard to figure that stuff out. It's hard to figure that stuff out with other things too, So I definitely think you're thinking in a good way, like thinking about your career, thinking about stuff you want to do. Yeah, one thing I'll say is that, it's interesting for me right now being in the position that I'm in, because when I first started doing the classes, there's always that thing in your mind of like those who can't do teach and all of that stuff. And like, what do you do and everything like that. But my mentality on that has shifted so much recently. Like, I just have so much fun doing it. And I think sometimes I think I like teaching more than I like drawing, you know, it's like weird. It's just something that it comes so naturally. It feels so natural and I just really enjoy it. And I stumbled on it because of, you know, request and, you know, now kind of it's just what I'd rather do. Like I could pound the pavement for freelance gigs, but I'd rather just teach a class on how to design dragons, you know? Like it's just more fun for me and it's cooler, and if I can make the same money doing that, like why not just do that? Um so it's like it's I think a mix. But you're in the right direction thinking about like what vehicle do I want to put my engine into, because you're always kind of going to be optimizing that process and your skills, and that's a good thing to like always be working on your skills and working on refining your art practice. um but yeah, just complete straight answer for me is like, dude, I don't make any money from YouTube. I think I've made a few $100 from YouTube. There was like one video I did that for some reason the algorithm liked, and that one made like a couple $100, but it's like YouTube's not paying rent, I'll tell you that much. But what's cool is that the people I'm trying to reach, I am reaching. Like I'm trying to reach very passionate people who really want to improve their work conceptually, like and technically, but they really want to improve their work and they want to really develop their soft skills as well as their hard skills. Like they want to develop their process, the way that they think, all of that stuff. And those are the people that I'm really trying to reach with all this content. This all these streams, and to be able to answer these questions and, you know, all of that fun stuff. But it really is like, I think of it like it's community service. Like I'm here to talk and to answer questions and to be there for people in a way that people were there for me when I was younger and like wanting to get a lot better, or not younger, but younger in my art journey, you know, like less far in my art journey, you know? But yeah, YouTube's super fun. If you love it, like if you want to just make a video talking about a thing, like just go for it and start. I can tell you, man, when I started streaming, like it was just me talking to no one for like months and months and months. I had to like constantly put on my story on Instagram, like I'm going live. Watch me. I'm going live. You know? And like trying to get people to watch. And now it's like, I don't even announce it. I just go live and people show up. But what's cool is like, I know that when I put up a stream, like the subscribers who have, you know, come to my channel, which speaking of, if you haven't subscribed yet, definitely subscribe. But the people who like just want to work on projects and want some company while they're working on projects, like they'll click on the video, they'll turn it on in the background, it'll be there for them. And it's like, I know every VOD that I do will reach like, you know, at least 1,000 people usually, if not more, but definitely on the low end, more like 1,000 people. And that's like, it's comforting to know that the stuff that I do is like providing some kind of comfort and support for people. And for those people who want to go a step further and actually want to do some educational experiences and like learn some stuff, you know, with me online, that's just so much fun. It's always just so much fun. And what's super cool is like, I have students who have taken like 4 or 5 of my classes. They've just like been there for like all of them. It's like super cool. And I get to see them grow. I get to see them develop, not just in their artwork, but like their character, the way they see the world changes. Just everything it's just really cool. Yeah, some definitely, we got some standout OGs who are just really dope and fun and cool. But yeah, man, it's like it's great. I will say, and this is like completely transparent and honest, the folks who have been supporting me on Patreon, oh my God, you guys have saved me from like so many like little tiny emergencies where it's like, you know, you think you're like stuck in a bind, and then I check Patreon, I'm like, oh thank God, you know, and it's like I'm it's like the income I get from Patreon, from the people who support from the Patreon Discord. Oh my God, too many times. I don't have enough fingers and toes to count the amount of times where I've checked the Patreon balance and I'm like, thank God, I'm not like dead in the water. I'm okay, you know. So many times, like, you know, I have to take like an emergency flight or something comes up and I'm like, oh no, I'm cooked. And it's like, oh, I'm not cooked. I'm okay. You know, it's really great. So shout out to the Patreon folks, man. And I always love doing stuff for you guys. And another thing is like, I want to do more big stuff. Like the channel hit like 10K, and I did that free shape design workshop. That was really fun. So I think at like 50K subscribers, I'll do another free design workshop. You know what I'll do at 50K? I'll say it right now. At 50K, I'll rerun my dragon design workshop, and I'll make it available for you guys. I probably won't do as many days. It'll probably be over the weekend, but I'll rerun my dragon design workshop live for you guys, so you can check it out. We'll do that at 50K. How about that? But yeah, man, for me with YouTube, I'm playing the long game, man. I'm playing the long game. My focus is providing good information, being trustworthy, and really just trying to actually be a support to people who want to learn, because every year there's just hundreds of thousands of people who want to learn how to make art. And every single year, a lot of those people get let down by their art school. They get let down by media that they watch. They get let down by all these institutions that should be supporting them in their art journey and just don't. And I want to do my part to try and be there for people who are looking for that. Most of the students I get, most of the people I work with are people who are at a high intermediate level, who have a almost impossible time transitioning into a professional level. And, like, I'm the guy. I'm like the guy to talk to like push through that barrier and get to that professional level. That's like the demographic that I really want to focus on helping, is that particular demographic. See you later, Seth. Thanks for stopping by, dude. But yeah, great question. Anyway, a little back on the making our way back to the piece here, talking about the piece. I'm working some of that oxidization back into the gaps of the scales a little bit here, which is pretty fun. I'm liking it. I'm having a good time with it. These areas that just kind of recess in and fit together, just those kind of little crevices, those little areas. I'm really liking it. It's looking pretty cool. It's fun to paint too. Like, it's just very meditative. But something that has this much level of detail, it's going to take some time to work on, But I did this to myself. It's probably why, I turned on the stream probably just for some company while I work on this a little bit. But yeah, I always encourage people, if you want to try YouTube, just do it. Just try. See if you like it. I love it, man. I love streaming. Streaming's so much fun. There was a minute in streams, I think like over a month ago, where, oh, dude, I popped off pretty hard. I kind of had some soft rules with myself when I started streaming, which is like, always make sure that you're, being kind and you're saying things that are actionable and not like painting a picture of dread for the world. Because a lot of online art content just kind of paints a picture of dread, whether people are talking about AI or people talking about the industry, like the kind of entertainment, video game animation industry, or whatever it is. People really love to paint a picture of dread for other folks out there, which is like hard for me to watch because, it's like at the end of the day, if you're really good and you love it and you do it a lot, you're going to succeed. Like, it's kind of just one of those rules. I've seen too many people succeed by just focusing, getting really good, and just like staying with it. I've seen more people succeed doing that in really hard circumstances than I've seen people who like, just like want it to be easy. Even when times are easy, the people who want it to be easy, they just don't ever really get out of their position. Because it's never easy enough for them. It's never easy enough for the people who want it to be easy. And it's never too hard for the people who just love it and want to get good at it and are just doing it. So yeah, eventually, while we're painting this, we'll work in some of those kind of warm copper areas back in. And we'll like work up to those really cool kind of we'll work up to those really cool, like bright highlight areas along the form. It's going to have a really nice effect mixed with the green. It's going to be really, it's going to be cool. Eventually. But yeah, this piece is going to be fun. It's going to be very intense, I guess. Like, it's going to be quite an intense piece to tackle for people. Yeah, God, I hope it's not like too daunting. I hope people just have fun with it. Hmm. Man, the cars outside are making so much noise, eh? I don't know if you guys can hear that. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. So I'm like, speaking of classes, I want to do something in like maybe late January, early February. I don't know yet. Or maybe something longer term. I've been doing a lot of kind of more blitz style, shorter term stuff. But I want to think a little bit longer term. Like I want to do maybe not even a class, more about thinking of it as like almost like a semester or like a term, like a spring term. And I want it to be project based. So like imagine if you had to like develop a project over the course of like, let's say 10 weeks or something, or more than 10 weeks, let's say like 12 weeks. Like you have to develop a project over 12 weeks, like your own world building project. Maybe we're thinking about, something for the portfolio or just for personal development. And, I kind of walk you guys through my process and I do a lot of demos, but a lot of it is like group discussion and collaboration. Like you'll be able to talk with each other about your projects and kind of figure things out. That's sort of what I'm thinking is like maybe hosting like a spring term extended like, project development. Let me know what you guys think about that. I think it would be really fun because when do you get the opportunity to work on a project over like 12 weeks, meeting maybe, I don't know, twice a week? Sounds pretty cool. Anyway, that's one thing I'm thinking about currently of something that we could do, but we will see. We'll see how that goes. Oh yeah, the feedback. You guys gave me some great feedback with the affordability. So like the last class I did, I got some feedback of people being like, they really wish there was a monthly option, and we included a monthly option, and a bunch of people used it, and that went really well. So I was really happy about that. That was cool. Alrighty. So now we're really getting into the nitty gritty of this, you know? I think the closer we get to the mouth, the more it'll be kind of scratched up and whatnot. More leaning towards this copper tone. Oh man, this is so much fun to paint. I love this. I wonder if like the tip of the nose would be really scratched up. I feel like it would be, right? Would that just almost be like polished even because of its the amount of use it would get? Yeah, like what if we like pushed it really hard in terms of the copper tones back here? But then of course it would like, have all those glinting highlights and reflective qualities of the copper. That's kind of cool. I kind of like that material switch, and then maybe like in the recesses here, you'd still get the copper just along the edges. And those little indentations. Oh yeah, that looks nice. Oh, that looks nice. So visually pleasing. Oh, I love that. Yeah, wow. Wow, 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 wow. So cool. Damn, so many sirens. Again, I hope you guys don't hear those sirens. If you can't, honestly, I'm really impressed with I guess that'd be like OBS's like internal software filter or something. Or maybe it's just like the gain on my mic is maybe correctly calibrated or something. I don't know. But I hope you guys can't hear it. Something like that is really nice. This kind of gleaming thing. One thing I might do to kind of wrap it all up in the end is I might just do like just like an overall kind of sort of deep tint on things, like something not too bad, like maybe lower the fill or the opacity and stuff, maybe a little bit deeper. And then just in those areas that we want to bring attention to, we can just kind of bring them back in. Areas like the sword, areas like the face. Little kind of vibes like this. This is all kind of finishing touch stuff that we do in the end if we really want to. But bring a lot of the light in and follow certain areas around a bit more. Accentuate some of those leading lines. Yeah, that's probably what we'll do to finish this bad boy up. Have all those big light shapes coming in and around. And then like doing some color dodge stuff probably. Adding in some like warmth in certain areas, some subtle glow to certain areas. I think that's what we'll do when we wrap this up. We'll have some nice effects that tie things together in a subtle way. Yo, what's up, Abe? How's it going, dude? Yeah, some really cool stuff to bring it in when we're done. But for now, we're just working on the flat texturing, I think. Man, whenever I start to, I'm starting to waver a little bit in my energy. Probably been going for a minute. How long have we been going for? Oh man, 2 hours and 15. Damn. All right, well, we might call it soon. Usually around the 2 hour mark, I'm like, blah, you know. He said, "Good man. Love seeing you streaming again." Yeah, me too, dude. It's fun. We did one a couple days ago. Doing one today. Hopefully, we'll be able to get it in on Thursday as well. When I do some streaming on Thursday too. That's the next plan. So overall, going from like bass tone into, you know, this kind of pass, I think we are getting some kind of clearer materials going on here. Value wise, it looks a little, some of the differences are a little extreme. You know, it's a little high intensity, high contrast. This is very like neat looking, and we're kind of getting a little bit busy here. But we can kind of work that back in. You know, we can sort of use our textured pastel brush to smooth some of these edges over and add back in some of that homogeneous sort of tones that kind of even things out a little bit. You know, we'll see. We'll try some stuff for sure. We might knock everything back again. Or we'll probably do a little copy of this and oops, duplicate it. Taunted Not Haunted says, "Hi, was just watching the archive when you started working on this piece on stream. The change is so awesome. Dude. Yeah, it's feeling pretty good, not gonna lie. I'm liking it a lot. The vibe is vibing. I'm enjoying it. It's feeling right. It's feeling correct. We've been painting on black for a minute though. Maybe we want to paint on a lighter background for a little bit. See how that feels. Whoa. What a change. My goodness. Wow. Look at that all of a sudden. Very different. Huh. Well, alrighty. Yeah, I'll start working like that for a bit. But yeah, we have another version of this, so we'll knock back these tones a little bit more. Make this whole thing a little bit calmer, I suppose. Yeah, that's working. I'm liking that. So you can see the lack of extremeness now when we kind of go back and forth. We're kind of reeling in the values a bit more. But, you know, we'll get those nice contrasts in again. Ah, but I like that the beak though. I like the beak being really bright. So yeah, these will all knock back. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. All right, let's power through. Let's do a little bit more, and then I think I'll call it, man. Talking and drawing, you do use more energy, I will say, but it's fun. It's fun hanging out with you guys. But yeah, 2.5 hours is usually time to take a break anyway. All right, we'll try to be a little bit faster with this process. So I'm just marking in a bit more of the patina along these edges of this oxidized copper texture that we're painting here. So we're just going along these edges where there would be any recess in the pattern and just kind of making sure that patina's in there. I think it just looks so cool. I think it looks so cool. A little bit wider here so we can cover both sides at once. Nice. Man, I wanted to post this yesterday, but it's becoming quite a piece, I think, now. But I think it will feel really cool when it's done. So I think it'll be worth it when it's done, even though it's taking some extra time right now. Plus, who knows, it'll probably be like the piece I put on my portfolio header and stuff too, I think. It just has that feel. And I want to be doing some more developed illustrative pieces too, just in general. So it's taking some more time, but that's okay. That is A-okay, baby. Plus, it's always worth it for some cool scale textures, you know? It's always worth it. Nice. And these little things, when we're just considering material, just like that much more in depth, it's just, oh, it makes such a big difference in the final. And then we had this nice kind of shadow come in, and we have some cool little reflected elements too that we can kind of work in there. So, you know, we'll be having all that nice depth, but like the payoff of doing the textures right the first time is that when you go in and kind of add the lighting to something like this, oh, it just feels so much cooler when you have that texture feeling great. Like all these little areas down here, like all the different, like coppers coming through or not coming through, like it just feels different with something like this, with some extra depth there. All right, cool. Yeah, I think it's all just busy work from here on out. I feel like I've lost a bit of my steam, guys. I think I might call it. Yeah, I think I need to take a bit of a break from talking and from painting for a little while. But I'll be live again probably on Thursday, I'm assuming. But this might be done by then. We might have finished this by then. But yeah, thank you for all the great questions today. We got to talk about a lot of really cool stuff. I got to talk even about like, my YouTube practice and everything, which is super fun. Yeah. Yeah, it's just going to be this for like another like hour. So I think I'll call it here, guys. This has been so much fun. I'm really happy with our development. I should have saved a version of where we were before we got to here. But one thing we did during this stream, which I really like, is we defined a lot of the highlights on the hair this time. And I think it adds a lot of really nice depth. And it kind of, follows through a lot of the motions and movement we kind of had too. Adding some nice mirroring curves and all that stuff to the piece. So I think it looks really good, this kind of look. When we come back in later, what I'll probably do is take these edges and add just a little bit more of highlight along these edges just to kind of push some of these elements a little bit with a little bit more contrast. And it's just going to look really, really cool when the piece is done, having these extra rhythms leading you in. So that'll be really, really fun. But yeah, for now, I really like where this piece is going. We've done a little bit of rendering today, a little bit more material stuff. We made some big changes around like the mouth and everything. So it's going to be pretty cool. Suzu says, bye, love the piece. We'll definitely be participating. Dude, absolutely. And have like fun with it. The whole point is to be just like loose and to have fun. I think I'm even going to do some extra versions of it just so that, we have maybe some versions that are a bit simpler, that aren't just like super intense. I'll probably do one that is just this with just some flat colors, something that's this just with just like kind of something behind, just so the line art is really clear. Like just do local colors and just so that the line art is really clear and people like know all the forms and stuff. I might do a version like that, just so that people can kind of follow along more easily. But this version is going to be super sick when it's done. It's going to be so cool. And I can't wait to get into all of the reflections in the skin tone. And we're going to do some gold reflections on the skin too. And there's going to be all these kind of warm glows and stuff happening. And it's going to feel really, really cool when we're getting closer to that kind of final version. But for now, things are still pretty bare bones. So it's going to take some time to finish this piece, but it'll be well worth it in the end. All right, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your evening. I've been Gabriel. Thanks for watching. And yeah, if you want to join the community Discord, you can join the Patreon in the description. It's super fun. And if you like how this piece is going and you want to try my brushes, it's a super simple brush pack. It's only $5, also in the description. Thank you guys so much for hopping in, hanging out. And yeah, I'll come to you guys with some updates soon. See you later.